Being a heel in 2019 is hard. We're all in on the game, and there's always one guy who will stick their cynical hat on and refuse to buy into anything they're seeing. Take Daniel Bryan at the moment, for example. He's so great as the environmentalist who goes after everybody else. I look forward to seeing him. I'm not sure that's how it's meant to work. When it does all come together though, it's still great, especially when someone gets hold of a world title and rams it down your throat. All you want is for them to be shut up and their championship taken away, and that's why you tune in. To watch through gritted teeth and just hope that tonight is the night when they get theirs. It's a wonderful scenario because it helps the person on the other end of it too, as they get a huge boost. Our new hero. I'm sure we'll have more of these down the line, but for now let's look backwards and remember those who've already smashed it. I'm Simon from WhatCulture, remember to subscribe, and this is the 10 greatest heel champions ever. Number 10, Bryan Danielson. We mentioned the former American Dragon, and here he is in his pre-WWE persona, doing it all in Ring of Honor. Already considered one of the best wrestlers on their way up in the early 2000s, there was an odd rumor in 2005 that the 24-year-old was considering retirement. Got people talking. As it turned out, that was the idea because it was all part of the story. He returned to the ring in September to defeat Jamie Noble for the ROH World title and started showing signs of a new attitude. For example, Danielson was more than happy to turn up for an interpromotional match with CCW until he abandoned his teammates during a particularly gruesome cage of death match. He didn't need that. He was a damn champ. From here, he defeated Nigel McGuinness to unify his already won belt with the Pure Wrestling Championship, and after he'd beaten Kenta in a true classic, that was that. Daniel was the man, and he went around telling everyone how good he was, which was twice as hard to take because he was right. He proved it night in, night out. When all this came to an end in December 2006, he was widely thought of as one of the best, and Danielson did this while pissing everybody off in the process. That's how you do it, folks. In this case, when it was over, Bryan had somehow lived long enough to become a hero. There's always an exception. Number 9, The Rock. The Rock is such a star these days, we just remember the times when he was beloved by everyone. If he turned up on Raw this week, we'd lose our damn minds because again, it's the great one, the people's champ, the most successful pro wrestler in history if you count what somebody does after they transition out the industry. When you turn the clock back a little further than that though, you remember how he found his feet with all this. It started with an awesome bad guy reign as the Intercontinental Champion in the mid-90s where Dwayne Johnson just got better every week. It's what he did when he got his hands on the world title that turned him into something else. His 1998-1999 run as the corporate stooge made him absolutely despised, and given that he held on to this belt by doing things like smashing Mankind's head in with multiple chair shots, only added to it. The Rock scolded fans every time he was in the ring, and most people were desperate to hear that shattering of glass. It signaled that Stone Cold Steve Austin was on the way to kick his ass. It all began perfectly at that year's Survivor Series where he shunned the audience to join up with Vince McMahon, and it was a success that WWE couldn't keep a lid on after a while. He was so entertaining he became a huge babyface before going on to Hollywood and doing what he did. Never forget where this started though, and that was as an utterly hated bad guy. Rocky sucks. Number 8, Kazuchika Okada. In New Japan, the usual path to the top is to leave the country and go on a pilgrimage of sorts to make your name and get vital experience elsewhere. You then return to the company even better than before, and everybody is happy to see you. That's not really what happened with Okada. While he did make this trip, his time in TNA was a joke, as no one then knew what to do with him. Turned into a comedy figure, and when all was said and done, I don't think he learned that much other than to never return to total non-stop action. Being the smart dude he is, however, he used all this to his advantage. Okada stormed back into NJPW with something to prove and challenged then IWGP champion Tanahashi to a match. My word, he won. He was so brash and brazen with this, the fans were disgusted, and Okada used it to prove that he was the future. We know he wasn't wrong. Tana would soon win it back, but it didn't matter. Okada dyed his hair blonde and gave himself the Rainmaker nickname to underline how much money he was about to make given his skills. I mean, that is always going to upset a very respectful Japanese crowd. He went on to win the G1 in 2012 and the New Japan Cup in 2013 before defeating Tanahashi again, and this time he held on to that belt for over a year. At first it was awful to see this cocky asshole back up his every word, but boy howdy did it help. Okada climbed to the top of that mountain, and now He is the man. Number 7, Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho's ascent through WWE is quite impressive when you look back now. He came in with a WCW albatross on his back, and from 1999 to 2005 proved that he was worth the hype. When he left that year citing burnout, fans were genuinely worried he may never come back. That's how popular he was. Thankfully he did so in 2007, but there was a problem. This version of Jericho felt so similar to what we'd seen a couple of years prior, it didn't click in the same way. It was awesome at first, there was nothing new to cling on to, so we reverted back to the status quo. The man in question spotted this a mile off, however, as he would do so throughout his career, and he decided to completely change everything. Attacking Shawn Michaels to kickstart this, Chris dropped all the fun from his character and just became a slow-talking asshole. Taking inspiration from AWA champion Nick Bockwinkel, he started to wear expensive suits and use words nobody understood, and it wound the fans up something fierce. Jericho acted like he was better than everybody else, and he was so desperate to be hated he wouldn't sell any merchandise. He was a dick and wanted to be treated as such. This feud with HBK is legendary nowadays, and a world title win in 2010 was proof of how well all of this worked. The audience hated the fact Jericho had managed to worm his way to this level while acting like he did, and wanted to see him get punched right in the groin. The former Y2J loved all of this and embraced it to such a degree that he's more than earned his place on this list. Given what he's currently doing in 2019 in AEW, we may be having this conversation again towards the end of the year. Number 6, Big Van Vader. New Japan, WCW, All Japan. It didn't matter where Vader went because he was such a beast he became a ridiculously good heel champion, usually within a matter of months. That's just what he did. He didn't win or keep titles by cowardly means either. He was Vader. He beat people up and left them in a pool of defeat before going off to find his next victim. Why he walked into NJPW in 1987 and won the IWGP title and caught the attention of World Championship Wrestling in the process. It would take a couple more Far Eastern reigns before he came over to the States permanently, but even then he smashed it, rolled into Ted Turner's company and pulverized Sting to take his world belt. This did hit a wall when he moved to WWE because they wouldn't book a bad guy in this fashion. You tell me, because I don't know. But even when that was done, he flew back to Japan and found his feet again in All Japan. While there, he even had classics with the likes of Misawa and Kobashi. Vader would win other championships along the way too, and every time it was because he boxed somebody's ears off. Booed every step of the way, he didn't care, and nor should he have done. He understood his character and kept it up for 2 decades. Now that is a monster heel. Number 5, Superstar Billy Graham. As we know, wrestling relies on tropes and often recycles through them as and when the time is right. This is why when a performer does something truly different, the world usually sits up and takes notice. Say hello to Billy Graham, who did that as WWE's first ever non-transitional heel champion. The promotion had always been a babyface focused company, from Bruno Sammartino to Pedro Morales, who essentially dominated the world title scene from 1963 to 1977. Between this, bad guys did have some reigns, but for a grand total of 52 days. And then came the Superstar. With his beach blonde hair and bombastic promos, he wasn't here to prop others up, he was here to be the main event, the guy, and the centerpiece. Graham was chosen to end Bruno's last World Championship run, and he went on to hold that belt for 296 days. That was unheard of back then, and fans were livid that not only had their hero been beaten, but that this new flavour of the month didn't give 2 hoots. Billy backed it up by defeating a bunch of challengers too and selling out Madison Square Garden to boot. He's the template for a lot that we see today, and that should never be forgotten. Number 4, Buddy Rogers. You may not know Herman Rowe, despite him being quite popular in New Jersey, but you definitely know Buddy Rogers, the man he would become. He too bleached his hair blonde, which yes is a pattern during this period, and from there he started to become huge on a national stage. The original Nature Boy, Rogers was one of wrestling's first arrogant heels and used this persona to become a major draw. In 1961 he was crowned the NWA Heavyweight Champ, and once again this was a rarity years ago. Rogers had the belt for 2 years before losing it to Lou Thesz, although Vince McMahon Sr. was reportedly upset about this, so much so he withdrew from the NWA to form his own alliance, which yes, put Buddy back on top of the card. As such, not only does he have a history in the National Wrestling Alliance, but he is also the first ever WWE champion. What a pivotal man he was. Number 3, Nick Bockwinkel. When it was time for AWA owner, booker and biggest star Vern Gagne to lose the world title after 7 years, a lot of things had to be considered. Talent was highest on that list, which is why technical whiz Nick Bockwinkel was chosen to fill this spot. It worked as well as he carried on these crazy long reigns by holding the championship for 5 years. It didn't even matter that Bockwinkel was 40 years old when he won the thing. He was in such good condition he could routinely perform in hour-long matches, and his cerebral promo style, which we've already documented got ripped off ever since, ensured fans hated him. The rage was underlined when Gagne defeated Nick for the belt and retired as champ, meaning the thing went back to Bockwinkel. You could smell the anger in the air. The AWA would struggle in the 80s, but Bockwinkel remained a persistent main eventer and went on to rack up 4 reigns as the top champ, the last of which ended when he was 42 years old. A Hall of Famer, no doubt. The sight of him with the championship and Bobby Heenan by his side is one of those you don't soon forget. Number 2, Harley Race. A legit tough guy and already a veteran in the industry, Harley Race was 30 years old when he got his first shot at the NWA title. Even then, it was considered a huge upset when he beat Dory Funk Jr. for the belt, even if his reign didn't last that long. The point was it cemented Race as a star, and it's not like this was the end for him. Capturing the US title, he still promised to claim the world one as well, and did just that in 1977 when he beat Terry Funk. Race racked up 5 reigns as NWA champ between 1977 and 1981, and only ever lost it very briefly to the likes of Giant Baba and Tommy Rich. Even after his time had passed, Harley still found a way to rack up a couple of more wins, and found his run ending with a total of 8. That's not too shabby, especially as he did this with some members of the audience actually trying to attack him as he walked to the ring. But between you and me, Harley Race probably would have killed him. Number 1, Ric Flair. Not one champion, no matter of organization, has had the legacy of Ric Flair. Becoming the NWA champ for the first time in 1981, the second Nature Boy on this list made it evident that being the best was top of his to-do list. And sure, he also had the blonde egomaniac gimmick, but the point was no one did it better than Flair, and nobody was more entertaining. While he would play face here and there, including when he won his second title against Harley Race, he continued to rewrite what it was to be a heel as he built the 4 Horsemen stable to protect his championship. He would travel anywhere and everywhere, getting booed out of buildings wherever he went, while also getting his opponents over by making them look amazing. Rick may have acted like an arrogant bad guy, but in reality he was as giving as they came. This reign continued into 1989, which was arguably the best year of his career when he had classic feuds with Ricky Steamboat and Terry Funk, and even a move to WWE in 1991 brought with it more world title wins and standing tall at the end of the 1992 Royal Rumble. When he returned to WCW, it was more of the same. Wherever Rick went, he won gold and did so as fans growled at him, even though we all respected him at the same time. Over the past 100 years, wrestling has produced a lot of all-time great heels, but Ric Flair sits at the top of them all and will do for some time to come. In fact, we should long for the day a contender arises, because my word, that will be good. Know of any other great heel world champions? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to WhatCulture.com and read yourself some articles, and follow WhatCulture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. My name is Simon from WhatCulture, and I will talk to you again soon.